Welcome to a brand new episode of the Bold Take Podcast. I'm Austin Waiter, that man next to me, the Austin Hill. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, it's playoff time in the NFL. And unlike in recent years, both our teams have made it into the playoffs somehow, some way, Austin. They have both made it in here. So before we dive into it, Austin, we're going to dive into everything. Week 18's big results, the coaching firings that have happened, and of course, our playoff predictions. I mean, how are you feeling to have the Bears back in the playoffs?
If I haven't seemed as excited all year, then you've been missing out because I've been pretty excited. That excitement extends to now, but of course, like I talked about a few weeks ago, the thought is starting to creep into my mind about the Bears going into the Super Bowl, maybe winning a Super Bowl, and I just don't know if that's something I can completely let in. But I've had some fears about this first round game because uh, you know coming into last week, I didn't know if it was going to be the Rams, the Niners, or the Green Bay Packers, just based on where we might finish and then where other teams were going to finish. Um, but even now, with the Packers maybe by record being the easiest team and maybe by health right now, the easiest team we could get, it is the Packers. It's a huge
Yep.
rivalry. Third time's a charm for these two teams. Uh, so it's the rubber match, and I am a little bit worried about what may end up happening in this game. It would be so Green Bay to break my heart in Soldier Field in the first round. So I'm optimistic, I'm hopeful, but I'm going to be worried. I think every single week, and I guess that's a good feeling since usually I'm sitting on my couch just watching anybody else play football.
Yeah, I'm doing all right with Steelers in the playoffs. Again, I'm doing the classic. I'm going in with no expectations. If they win, cool. If they lose, who knows what the future holds there. We know what the future holds for one of their division opponents. So I'm kind of hoping if we lose, it's the same route as that division opponent. But we'll dive into that in just a little. Let's look at the Week 18 games factored into the way that this playoffs is now set the way it is. That was with the Buccaneers beating the Panthers on Saturday, the first domino, Tampa winning 16-14. And Austin, the big scenario with this one was, hey, Tampa's got this division locked up, is what everyone thought, but little did they know how important a certain game on Sunday was and ultimately deciding who this division winner was. But this was an ugly, rainy game that Tampa gave themselves at least a chance to be a division champ.
Yeah, and look, we kind of talked about it off the record and off the show when it happened. This was like genius scheduling from the NFL. It's such a good idea for them to save this last week to just not plan where any game's going to be until you know what's important and what's not.
Yeah,
Because putting this game as the first game played of this week was so smart because both these teams have to come out here and play like their life depends on it because
right.
they don't know the result of that other game that we're going to talk about soon. And it led to a good football game, an awesome football game. And I guess the one thing that Tampa Bay can maybe say about this is, sure, injuries and kind of getting into a slump in the middle of the season cost them the game, but you went down swinging. You did everything you could to make the playoffs. Ultimately, just came down to some stuff that not exactly out of their hands because there obviously were things they could have done throughout the season to change that fate. But as in what they could have done this week, it was completely out of their hands.
Absolutely. But I think it's a good way for, like I said, good way to end the year in Carolina. Yeah, you're kind of entering on a bit of a rough stretch here the last couple of weeks. I hope to see that change. The other one on Saturday had big impact. Seahawks and Niners in Santa Clara. Winner was the NFC West champ. Winner was the one seed. And awesome. We continue to talk about the Seattle defense, how good it was. Did pretty good against the Niners offense that had been red hot the past couple weeks. 13-3 final. Niners offense couldn't get anything going at all. Brock Purdy only threw for 127 yards. Niners only 53 yards rushing in the game. I mean, Seattle really had control of this game the entire way due to some key moments early on in the game they were able to capitalize on, and this defense just locked down.
Yeah, this was good, honestly, to see as a Bears fan last week losing to San Francisco. I thought it was a back and forth game, uh, but San Francisco gotten on a roll and they were starting to look unbeatable. And I was worried that they were going to close out the season, win, clinch the one seed. Their entire path goes through San Francisco, and it was pretty much who's going to be playing the 49ers in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So this kind of humanizes San Francisco and puts everybody on a little bit more of a level playing field. Still, all three of those NFC West teams, I think you got to be worried about. But this was a good game for Seattle as well, like you said. On the road in San Francisco, needed a win in this game, couldn't just come in lollygagging. And they take advantage and again turn that momentum that San Francisco had against them, and come out and close out this game. Basically not exactly a playoff game because it's not win or go home, but it felt like it had playoff game stakes. Look, the week one bye, the little bit of rest, the reseeding that happens in the second round, you're going to get to play the lowest seeded team after round one. I think that you want to put yourself in that situation, have that advantage, know every game in the NFC is going to be at home, and they got through it, executed well.
Yeah, and I think me and you both know we know how tough it is to play in Seattle and go there on the road, especially during the playoffs. And we'll just say it like it is. Every single time the Seahawks were the one seed, they have at least made the Super Bowl. So we're going to see if that trend continues here with them. Then let's dive into it, Austin. The one on Sunday, if you had told us start of the year, a matchup between the Falcons and Saints in the noon slate in Week 18 was going to decide the division, we would like, what happened to Tampa Bay and Carolina? We thought they were going to be when this really did affect it. Falcons win it 19-17 and clinches a division title for the Carolina Panthers. And Austin, this is funny to think about with Atlanta. They got eliminated from the playoffs in early December, December 9th, and they still finished tied for first in their division. Just going to leave it at that. If that's not Atlanta Falcons, I don't know what is. But 1917 Atlanta wins. Panthers are getting a home playoff game.
Yeah, this is kind of my issue with the current playoff structure. An 8 and 9 team
Right.
hosting an 11-win team or 12-win team in the Rams uh, is kind of a little bit of a reach. I'm fine if every division winner with 7 teams in the NFL, if every division winner makes the playoffs. But also at the same time, I guess the big gripe could also be that you're the 12-win team playing the 8-win team. You should probably still just win that game no matter where it's played.
Right.
So I see kind of arguments both ways, but it just kind of sucks that it's weird because this doesn't really happen in any other sport. The 4 seed isn't a team with a terrible record. Like that just doesn't really happen. I guess baseball, the division winners also go, but baseball records also don't get like crazy, like different.
Yeah.
Like the playoff teams are usually hanging around similar numbers. You don't really have a lot of like 80 win baseball team, like,
Mm-hmm.
80, exactly like 82 on the head or something and make the playoffs. It doesn't usually happen that way. So, um, it's just kind of a weird structure, but hey, hats off to Carolina. They played a great second half, like we said. Kind of wrote this division off for Tampa Bay, and they did enough. They didn't win on Saturday, and they still got in, so that's helpful. But think about this for the Falcons. I saw this and it blew my mind. Let's go back several weeks into the season. The Jets
Yeah.
win 27-24 against the Falcons. Had the result of that game been completely flipped and the Falcons win, the Jets lose, Jets have the number one overall pick in
Mm-hmm.
the NFL draft,
Yep.
and the Falcons go to the playoffs as a 9-8 football team. They win their division to go to the playoffs. And it thinks that kind of sums up the season for both of these teams.
Yes.
Falcons. Kind of played really well at certain points in the season. Looked like they could be a tough team to beat with Bijan at his best, Drake London, Kyle Pitts even having some good games in there. And I would say Kirk and Michael Penix had some pretty decent games uh, at quarterback. Obviously, Michael Penix is not out because of performance; he's out because of injury.
Right.
So they at their best they looked like a tough team to play, but just couldn't be good enough to make the playoffs in a game that almost felt like a gimme. And you can say the same about the Jets. They were a bad team this year, first team in NFL history to not get an interception in a season of football, which is mind-boggling. But on top of that, they've been bad, but they weren't bad enough to get the number one pick in a game that now kind of decides it for them. They couldn't get the job done.
Yeah, it's funny when you look back to the history of the future of the NFL. Like, what if I told you a random matchup between the Falcons and the Jets, November 30th, with both teams really not having great records? What if I told you that was one of the more significant games of the entire NFL season? That's exactly how this played out. I mean, that Jets thing, I mean, like this year with the Jets, because I'm not going to dive into their game. I mean, Buffalo blew them out. That's just, I mean, that's just the way it was there. Like, I can't honestly, and me and you have seen a lot of Jets failures. We've seen a lot. Like, I genuinely think this is the worst season I've seen of Jets football in my lifetime, at least. Like, I really can't find one that's as bad as this one. The only one that could be was maybe a few years ago when they were coasting to the number one pick, and then they decided to win a couple of games at the end of the year, and they fell to number two and got Zach Wilson. But I mean, this feels like, especially when you factor in the whole interception fiasco with it.
Yeah, I'll agree. This feels like probably the worst that I can remember. Some of those Adam Gase years were like
That's also a very
weird,
fair point. Yeah.
but I don't know that I can say they top this. Now on ESPN, had just happened to not ESPN. It was on maybe NBC. I can't remember exactly when it was. Watching, I think it was NBC when I was watching the pregame for the Bears Niners last week, um, and they were talking about is Aaron Glenn on the hot seat? What are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
This is, I guess, the problem with professional football.
Yep.
But some of these organizations are in the media, just short leashes for people.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Glenn inherited one of the literal worst positions in the history of the NFL. Uh, I feel like, I don't know, maybe I missed the cue. The idea, especially at the trade deadline, trading off huge pieces like Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner, felt like the idea was let's lose as many games as possible and try and set up our
Yeah.
future. Let's start the rebuild. Um, I just don't know how it's fair to Aaron Glenn, who was the second best coordinator in football last year, the second best hire out there, maybe next to Ben Johnson. Those were the two big names coming out of Detroit. And then you say after one season with a bad team, not to mention Justin Fields, who, whether you think he had a good season or was good for the Jets or not, got hurt, and that didn't help any. They were playing Tyrod Taylor and Brady Cook, who I don't think they imagined ever putting on the football field this season. Um, Not to mention Tyrod Taylor also getting hurt as the backup,
Mm-hmm.
and then it came down to Brady Cook time this season. So to thrust all that on Aaron Glenn and say, should we we just shouldn't even be having that discussion. Now, sure, you go out and get your future franchise quarterback, and you come out and things don't look good, things don't look right. I'll entertain a conversation about what the organization looks like then. But this year to me felt like a tank year for the Jets, and to have this discourse around Aaron Glenn or any first year head coach for that matter blows my mind. And I know that it's kind of a tough room this year because Ben Johnson had so much success. And I know it's
Mm-hmm.
not Mike Vrabel's
Yep.
first year as a head coach, but it's his first year
For sure with them.
in New
Yeah.
England, and they've had a complete turnaround. So I know that kind of with his class of coaches that came in their first year, maybe he doesn't look so good. But I'll be honest, I don't think Ben Johnson or Mike Vrabel could have done much better than what Aaron Glenn did in New York.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But again, Mike said, if they go out and get the franchise quarterback and you come out the next year and you don't see any improvements at all, that's when I start to get a little worried. Like if I don't see any improvements at all, like if it's another 3-14 or 2-15 year, I'm like, okay, Aaron, at this point, like year one, we get it. Year two, we expect to see some sort of progression, at least some
Yeah.
sort of way there for that. But nonetheless, it's crazy to think about with that one. The other one that truly was a big factor in ultimately setting up the way the playoffs happen here was the Bears and Lions game. We kind of hinted at it going into that. Lions winning 19-16 over the Bears. I mean, like I said, I had a full expectation. Well, I did, well, not. I said on another show because we didn't get to record an NFL episode last week. I said I expect Dan Campbell to go out swinging. If there's one thing I can guarantee, Dan Campbell ain't going down without a fight. And that's exactly what this game was. Lions got up 16-0 early. Bears responded to tie it up, and then ultimately a walk-off field goal for the Lions. And it makes you think, you know, man, now the Bears are going to fall down to the 3 seed. But Philly, for some reason, and I get why they partly did it because they had the NFC East wrapped up, but choose not to play their starters. Let Washington come in and beat them. So the Bears stay at the 2, Philly stays at the 3. You thought this was going to shake it up, but ultimately ended up keeping things right where they were at due to different results in both the games.
Yeah, and I couldn't be more thankful for the effort that the Commanders put out there because
Shout out Josh
yeah,
Johnson. That's how you say.
watching yeah, shout out Josh Johnson. He delivers a late Christmas miracle for me. One more present under the tree, not just him playing on Christmas Day, but him making sure the Bears get that 2 seed. But yeah, you're right. The Lions were going to come out swinging. They should be a playoff team. I don't know what the tiebreaker would look like if, the Packers had theoretically lost that tie against the Cowboys, and what that, the tiebreaker between them might be. But I don't know. I feel like kind of coming into this end of the season, the Lions aren't necessarily great, but I think they feel better than the Packers do, down the stretch. Uh, but look, they came out and showed like, we're on par with the rest of these teams, and go out and make an example of the Chicago Bears and had a great game. Was kind of tough to watch, but my only vested interest was the seeding in this game. I would not have sweated this game out nor cared the result had I known that the Eagles were just going to go and lose to
Right.
Washington. Um, so yeah, I mean, good for the Lions, but ultimately for Chicago, this ended up not mattering. Fortunately, um, tough that Caleb Williams didn't hit 270. I really wanted him to hit 4K on the season. Um, but I did like that Ben Johnson kind of altered the play calling a little bit, and they had him throw it quite a bit more than he has all season long. So they certainly weren't going to not give him a chance to do it.
Absolutely. But nonetheless, like I said, Bears keep the 2 seed, so they have a chance to have 2 home playoff games in the postseason, which, I mean, I can't remember the last time. 2000, I'm trying to remember the last time the Bears had 2 home play. Was that the 2010 season? Probably the last time they had 2 home playoff games.
Probably. We had the home game in 2018. No, again to bring it up, but
I
we
wasn't trying. That's
somehow
why I
found.
said 2010. I was like, I'm not going to be the one that brings it up. I'm not going to be the
Yeah,
one.
somehow found a way to lose that game. Some will say he was a sleeper agent for the Eagles. I am
Maybe so.
some because Mitchell Trubisky had just made one of the best throws I'd ever seen him make in my entire life to put us in the easiest field goal range of all time. Uh, and then what? When we last time we made it in 2020,
Yeah.
we played in New Orleans, so we wouldn't have had a home.
Yeah.
I don't think there was any chance to get another home game. I think we were like the 7 seed.
Right. Yeah. I was about to say, and yeah, that was one of those. It's kind of like the Steelers every year when they make the playoffs. It's like, yeah, we made it in, but it's like, do we really need to make it in? Like, was that really the best for our future? But
Yeah.
nonetheless, for the Steelers, they're in the playoffs regardless of the future. They win the matchup over the Ravens on Sunday Night Football, 26-24. And I will not lie to you, as a Steelers fan, this is the most stressed I was during a game since 2017. I'm not going to lie to you. With the division on the line, with everything that's obviously on the line for the future of these coaches. First way the game started, Ravens took control early. Steelers answered back in the third quarter. And then this fourth quarter, Austin, was just score for score, back and forth, back and forth. But then Steelers take the lead with a minute left. And you think, okay, look, they'll kick the extra point. They'll go up by 3. We'll be good. And then Chris Boswell decides to go back to 2018 form and just whiffs on extra point that I've now learned was actually, they wrote it in the stat book now as a block. They said it got tipped on there, so maybe that's what led to it getting
Wow.
blocked. I personally didn't see it get blocked on the replay, but that's just me. But 26-24 Ravens make some big plays. Lamar with a great throw to Isaiah Likely on a 4th and 7. And you think chip shot range for the rookie kicker Tyler Loop, and he looped that thing to the right and missed that field goal. Ultimately, give the Steelers the division title over the Ravens here. Not gonna lie to you, as far as a final game of a regular season, that was one of the more dramatic endings I can remember in recent memory.
Yeah, with huge stakes too, like you said. It was crazy ball game. I'll say this much. I don't want to give the guy too much garbage because he is a kicker, and it's obviously harder
Right.
than we make it out to be. Sitting at
Obviously.
home doing
Right.
nothing. But that felt like a gimme. It looked like a gimme.
Mm-hmm.
That's just got to sting. I'm not gonna blame him and shame him here, but That has to stink. I can't even imagine. I
Mhm.
mean, it was such a sure thing. ESPN's notification that comes out. Did you see this?
Yes, I did. I did see this.
So the notification comes to me, and surprisingly, I was actually like trying to get a little bit of sleep. I had gone to bed early, even though the game was back and forth. I was like, I really just want to go to bed. Um, Trying to get myself ready for,
Yeah.
getting back to school. But I get the notification that's like, the Ravens are in. And I'm like, wow, they actually did it. But then I read the description and it's like, the Steelers managed to push past the Ravens 26-24. And I'm like, what is this notification? It is telling me that two different teams won the same game. Um, and then I had to go and look at the score because I didn't know what happened, and I saw the missed field goal, and I saw that the Steelers had won. And then it took 2 hours for them to send out another notification that was like, "Oh, actually, the Steelers won the game."
It's just,
I
oh,
was like,
our bad,
"Yeah," I was like, "That feels like an extended period of time for like people who weren't paying attention to the game or didn't go and look it up after the title and description were, confusing." But yeah, it was a tough back and forth game, but this has kind of been the MO for the Ravens season.
hmm
Unfortunately, they just have found a way to constantly get in their way, whether it's the Derrick Henry fumble miscues, guys being out and not playing, and now a missed kick. That's kind of what this season was for Baltimore.
Yeah, it truly was. And I'm not gonna lie, you talking about you thought it was give me. I mean, I sat there watching the 4th and 7 conversion. I had just automatically assumed we had lost. Like I just like
Yeah,
I was like, we did all this stuff. You score the late touchdown, we missed the extra point, like this and that. Can't believe we decided to cut it this close. I was legit telling myself, I was like, well, at least if this is a choke job, at least Mike Tomlin's getting fired. Like I was telling myself that before the 44
yeah.
yard field goal. So nonetheless, Steelers are in there. We're going to dive into playoffs in just a second. But Austin, as always, to end the regular season, we had the coach firings that have already come out. And we're going to dive into them really quick. First one that happened actually was on during Sunday Night Football, during the middle of Steelers Ravens. Falcons firing Raheem Morris, not just him, also GM Terry Fontenot, and the team president Rich McKay. All three fired from the Falcons, and it seems a full reset's on its way there in Atlanta. And of course, I don't know if you've heard about this, the fact when Matt Ryan expected to take on the team president role in Atlanta there,
I
that could
did
be
hear
part of
that.
the reason with that change there. But I mean, your thoughts on this whole change for Atlanta here?
I like it and I don't like it.
Yeah, I
Raheem
get
Morris
that.
was a good coordinator. Again, even in what 2 years, it feels a little bit quick to me. But I do get it. Like we've seen for the last, I don't know, it feels like 4 or 5 years
Yeah.
now that this team is capable of winning this division if they can come out and play like consistent football all year. And now I think you're at the time where you've got Penix, you've got Bijan Robinson, you've got Drake London, you've got Kyle Pitts playing pretty well this season. Um, this is a good time while Michael Penix is in this rookie contract to try and get some stuff figured out about what this team's going to be. And look, let's say it again. I think for the most part it's worked out and it helped to have Kirk Cousins at the end of the season, but unfortunately they weren't playoff eligible, so it didn't matter.
hmm
Decisions like signing Kirk Cousins to a massive deal and then drafting Michael Penix with a top 10 pick. It's like, I get it. I love that you took Michael Penix with a top 10 pick, but why did you pay Kirk Cousins if that was going to be like, if you thought at all you were going to take a quarterback in the first round, like maybe you didn't see Penix getting that far down and you were like, we got to have him. If it was ever going to cross your mind that you might go quarterback, why would you spend that much money on Kirk Cousins?
hmm
And so I hope that with this kind of reset, you're erasing some of these what feels like fumbles, uh, in a sense, because look, you don't have that much money tied up in Kirk Cousins. You could go out and get somebody that could help your team, or if you had committed to Kirk Cousins like you did with the money, like the money would suggest,
Right.
you maybe could have gone and gotten a piece that could have helped Kirk Cousins now, as opposed to a guy who's just going to steal his job. But while Penix has got this cheap money, while some of these guys are still in their rookie contracts and they're not super expensive, this is, in my opinion, a great opportunity to try and strike and at least compete in a division that's really anybody's game. Uh, 99% of the time coming into these week 18 opportunities like we saw this year. I like the idea behind it. I think they're right there, and I think if it really is about finding the right coach, that's better. I'd rather that than get rid of Michael Penix and tear this entire team down
Yeah.
to try and build into Raheem Morris's standards. I think you've got a good team. I think you've got good players. I think you've got good talent. It's about finding somebody that can get these guys to execute.
Yeah, I think so as well. I'm not gonna lie. Whenever I saw this, I was kind of surprised because the way they finished the year, they won like four in a row to finish the year, and I was like, you know what? That might have actually done enough to give Raheem Morris another year, maybe. And that's what I thought. But then he was fired, and at first I was like, okay, that's kind of a surprise. But then you factor in they fired the GM as well, and then you factor in they fired the team president. I'm like, okay, I get the move then to fire Raheem Morris. Then at that point, because you just wanted to
Agreed.
clean house and just fully reset everything. Honestly, if Matt Ryan's in charge, I think he was an okay quarterback in his day. I mean, he was all right. MVP, leading Atlanta to most
Yeah.
success the franchise has ever had. We don't talk about the Super Bowl, but I mean, he's pretty successful
It
quarterback.
was
So
only kind the Super Bowl was only kind of his fault.
it was partly his and partly Kyle Shanahan's play calling, but we'll just leave it at that. But
Yeah.
to me, the GM one was the one that I think that had to make the most sense because you think about it, Austin, you had the questionable pick with Michael Penix. We've all seen the clip of him explaining the pick to Arthur Blank, and Arthur Blank's just standing there like, are you kidding me? Like that's what we're gonna go with here.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
then there's the move last year that I continue to bring up where they trade their first round pick to the Rams to move up in the draft. And to me, whenever you make that move, I think he's telling Arthur Blank and he's telling himself, we're not worrying about that pick because we're going to be a playoff team next year. And whenever you're not a playoff
Agreed.
team, and now obviously the Rams have a top 15 pick that they're going to look at here, Arthur Blank's probably like, okay, something needs to change here. And so I agree. I think that's why they made these moves here. Again, if Matt Ryan does get hired as team president, I'm very curious where they go. I mean, I think it has potential to be successful there. What about your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think so. I think kind of putting a guy in a situation that just knows football, kind of knows the management. Look, these guys, these quarterbacks don't just have to be coaches. I think Andrew Luck is a great example of what
Mm-hmm.
quarterbacks can be outside of coaching. I mean, I think we're going to look back on this move at Stanford, especially if they can continue to kind of trend in the right direction success wise. I mean, they already have with Andrew Luck getting there and becoming this general manager, where you can start to see, hey, some of these guys, look, I'm not going to say every quarterback is this knowledgeable. Obviously, Andrew Luck is an incredibly intelligent individual. He went to
Right.
Stanford for crying out loud. So he's an intelligent guy. But he's going to be able to go out there. It's going to show that these guys are able to go out there and kind of manage things and see things from kind of the football side of things. So I like it, especially if it is in any way inspired by this Andrew Luck move out at Stanford to be like, this is a guy who gave a lot to our franchise, and now we can trust him to try and help us build a team. I think this is a trend that we're going to start to see a growing across the NFL and across college football. To get these guys who are either alumni or were vets that played for a long time for a franchise coming in and kind of helping shape that culture and bring teams back to the success that they once brought to these universities and to these franchises.
Absolutely. I think it has a good chance of working out. We'll see what Atlanta can do there. Because again, Austin, like we have said, for like the last 4 or 5 years, it's felt like they're right there. Just take it. Like just go and
Yeah.
take it, and it's yours. And they just never wanted to. So we'll see if whatever Matt Ryan does and whatever coaching staff and GM they bring in, we'll see what the future holds there in Atlanta. But the other next firing we're going to talk about, one that was kind of rumored to have happened for the last couple of weeks. Raiders moving on from Pete Carroll here. And this is one where I almost feel like I kind of feel bad that Pete Carroll took the job in the first place if he had known that there was possibility of the way this season going the way it did. Because I know me and you entered the year thinking, look, we don't know if they're going to be elite, but we think like 7, 8 wins, maybe they get to 9 somewhere along there, maybe. But it was just a complete disaster throughout most of the year, where obviously things had not worked out. And from what I've heard, Tom Brady's supposed to step in and take a more integral role with finding a new head coach, pairing up with the GM there. But me and you both think love Pete Carroll as a coach, but we think it's maybe the right move for him. But I mean, I hate that he had to go out like this.
I think it's the right move for what the team is clearly set up for now.
Right.
I think this was a wasted season for
Yep.
this franchise, just in general. You bring in Pete Carroll, you trade for Geno Smith, you draft Ashton Jeanty. This all screamed we're gonna make a push to being competitive, and this team did not make an effort.
Mm-mm.
Look, and what makes me more mad, I know Colston Loveland has been great for the Chicago Bears. But you bring in Pete Carroll. Why, if you're just planning on being bad? You don't trade Max Crosby. Why, if you're just going to be bad? You bring in Geno Smith. Why, if he's just going to be bad? And you give him this huge amount of money. You draft Ashton Jeanty. I think the thing that makes me so mad is you bring in Pete Carroll, and the whole drafting Ashton Jeanty is look at running backs that have played under Pete Carroll. Look at how much success they had. Marshawn Lynch, anybody. Uh, Reggie Bush in
Mm-hmm.
college. It's like, this is kind of his system, gritty ground game. Let's get the best running back in the draft. And when you follow that train of thought, but now look, you had a terrible offensive line. And I get that that contributed pretty heavily. But now you're going to bring in somebody else who's going to have a little bit more of a reset. This robbed my Chicago Bears of Ashton Jeanty. It did. If they didn't have Pete Carroll, they pick Shador Sanders in the first round with whoever they have, and they're rebuilding this team. It's just shameful that they bring in Pete Carroll with this like illusion of going to be competitive, and then they make no effort, and now you've wasted a year of everybody's time to be a sad disappointment, and to go on to what makes it such a waste to me is that you're firing everybody. You're getting rid of Pete Carroll. Sure, maybe you want somebody to rebuild. I'm not saying that Pete Carroll's not the guy for a rebuild. He
No.
said that in Seattle. He didn't want to be a part of a rebuild. And that's kind of why the relationship ended up not working out. Of course, they ended up not going into a super deep rebuild. They ended up getting a pretty decent number one overall seed team. But he was like, I don't want to be a part of a rebuild. I don't have that much time left. I want to be coach competitive football teams. Um, so bringing him in says we're going to be competitive, and that's just not the result they put on the field. Now you've wasted a year for Max Crosby. You've got yourself locked into this crazy Geno Smith deal that sure the Seahawks were able to kind of get out of it and drop it off onto you, but now you sign him to an extension and the way he played last year, I don't think you're going to be able to pawn that deal off
Mm-mm.
again.
Mm-mm. I agree, and we'll see again what they do. Obviously, now the number one pick, they expect it to be Fernando or Dante Moore, whoever. Um, as far as new head coaching, look, you've got plenty of pieces there on the offensive. Ashton Jeanty, you got him there. Brock Bowers. Um, I think me and you will both agree with this. If you are going into the rebuild, this is the summer you trade Max Crosby. Like this has to be the summer. Because like I said, Leah entered it when they made all those moves to get the guys and everything all season. We were like, okay, look, they're going to try to compete. We're going to see where it goes. But now when it's clear that you got a lot of work to do, it's now the time you look to make that move, especially with how it ended. But you talked about with Ashton Jeanty. Found this stat I thought was interesting. Ashton Jeanty recorded 1,021 total yards after contact this season. He had 1,321 total yards on the year. That doesn't scream how bad this year was for him, and the fact that he's still able to get to that amount is ridiculous. I mean, it's ridiculous.
I know so much for a bad rookie year. I know people were trying to find any reason. If you run for 1,000 yards with that miserable offensive line, they should be handing you the MVP trophy. They just should.
Yeah, whatever OC gets hired there in Vegas or whatever, if whether the head coach is offensive or defensive minded, they're gonna be like, "You kidding me? I get this running back to get this started." That's what they're thinking there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the Raiders make that move for him. Then one that was kind of expectable is also a bit of a surprise. Cardinals firing head coach Jonathan Gannon. Look, this is one that I think me and you would both agree. After his first year, we had a lot of optimism for what he was going to do in Arizona with the way they played for him and the way everything was looking. Then you have last year that's choked down the stretch to end the year, costing them a playoff spot. And then this year, closing the season with 9 straight losses, that Titans loss, obviously, too. I mean, it kind of felt like, in all honesty, it would have been kind of a slap in the face to the fans to bring him back after this year with the way it's went. I know you could blame injuries and stuff for it, But ultimately, yet another firing for the Cardinals, a team, a franchise that has never kept a coach in the history of their entire franchise, has never kept a coach more than 6 years. Your thoughts on this one?
I I like Gannon, and I think he's done a good job. But I think for the direction they're about to head, this is the right way. It looks like it's probably the end of Kyler's era, which I've already gave my opinions with the whole Kobe Brissett nonsense. That I don't entirely agree with that decision making process. But look, Kyler may not be a guy that's gone by week one. You'd
Hmm.
probably like to. Anybody that'd like to get him would probably like to have him at the start of the season, but he may not be gone by week one. And unfortunately, with how much Gannon has been like, no, Kyler Murray's our guy. He's our number one quarterback. I think you have worries that if he's still on the roster, he's still playing, and then maybe your most valuable asset as far as trading purposes goes could go down, get injured, which he kind of has a habit to do, and cost you potential assets in return. Um, I think the team probably, if you're going away from Kyler, it's probably time to go ahead and start a reset here. So yeah, I think getting rid of Gannon, getting away from Kyler, well, I don't really know if I would agree with those decisions personally. I think if that's the direction you're heading, yeah, the move to get rid of Gannon, it's got to be at the top of the list.
I think so as well. They are keeping GM Monty Ford on, which I don't know if I really agree with. I feel like because I mean, the whole debacle when it comes to firing head coach and GM. You want to bring them in together so they have that same mindset and they can work together and figure it out. Now
Yeah,
you got to try to mesh what the GM is there currently and mesh that with a new coach coming in, try to build a relationship that way, which sometimes can be good. For example, with the Rams when it came to Les Snead hiring Sean McVay, or it could be bad, like we have seen several examples for there. But I agree with you. I don't know what the future holds for Kyler, but even with that, I mean, they're not high enough up to really go get one of the top QBs, unless, obviously, depending on what happens with the Trinidad Chambliss stuff, maybe he is out and they want to take a risk there. But I mean, I really don't know what you do at QB. I mean, do you just do another? This next year to me kind of screams like we're signing a quarterback to a 1 year like stopgap option, and then we're going to pick one the next year. That I feel pretty
yeah.
confident that might be what this next year is in Arizona.
Hey, for fun, let's get the Josh Rosen redemption season where he comes
Hey,
back to play QB. Um, I don't know how good that would really go. The Cardinals weren't wrong for Josh Rosen. Josh Rosen was wrong for the Cardinals. He was not very good, and I will never forget post draft saying like there are however many teams, like 9 teams, that are going to regret not
yeah, they're
taking
going to
him.
regret picking. It was
And I'm just like, all right, buddy, that goes. I mean that was the icing on the cake for what his career was going to be. He was nothing more than a placeholder for Kyler Murray.
no. I mean, he really was not much else there besides a placeholder for him. You're absolutely right there. Um, Obviously. The next coaching firm we're going to talk about, there's a couple on here that obviously, had the Jonathan Gannon one. You had hit those, and it's like, okay, those make sense. We were kind of maybe expected, things along those lines. But then yesterday, you have the shocking head coach firing of John Harbaugh as the Baltimore Ravens coach after 18 years on the job there. I mean, this is one truly just kind of a shocking move that it happened. And to stay in the AFC North as well, Kevin Stefanski also out in Cleveland. AFC North football is going to look a lot different there in as far as new head coaches go. But we'll start with Stefanski first since that one actually came out first before Browns firing him, but are keeping Andrew Berry, the GM, on. And to me, again, this just makes I'm gonna be honest with you, this makes zero sense if you're just firing Stefanski because he's probably the most talented coach you've had in
Yeah,
recent memory. The problem being, ever since trading Baker, they never figured out quarterback. Besides that, there's loads of weapons there. And you tried to make the move for Deshaun Watson, which that GM made, and he's still there. So to me, this is the move if you're looking to fire him and the GM together and just want something different. But just to fire Kevin Stefanski and blame him, I don't think that's the right move personally for them.
I look. There's been talk of Stefanski losing his job the last 2 years, and I don't get it. He's given literal terrible teams, and he's won two Coach of the Years.
Hmm.
That blows my mind. In his tenure with Cleveland, he's won two Coach of the Years in the NFL. That's crazy. That shouldn't even be allowed. And look, here's the problem. You're firing the guy who solves all the problems the best he can that he's handed from the GM. If there's
Hmm.
anybody to blame for the predicament that Cleveland is in right now, it's the GM. We should be seeing a general manager fired and Kevin Stefanski still coaching in Cleveland. Hey, if I'm somebody who's got some young offensive talent, maybe on the Raiders, I'm ecstatic to see an offensive mind like Kevin Stefanski come up. Get him with your number one overall quarterback pick
Hmm.
and Ashton Genty and Brock Bowers. I mean, this is a mind-boggling decision. And you kind of start to wonder if some of the drama with people saying, "Oh, he doesn't like Shador, he doesn't want to play with Shador," if that had anything to do with it. I don't think that that's entirely the motivation. But also, I think this commitment to Shador, a sixth round pick, as like your franchise guy all of a sudden. I get he brings in views, and I don't think he played horribly this season. I wouldn't mind, if you can't get somebody you want, bringing him back. I'm not saying that. But if that really had anything to do with it, unless he's just like outwardly being like aggressive or disrespectful in the locker
Right.
room,
Right.
I just don't know how you justify that being like, oh, the sixth round pick that played below average, uh, should we really should commit to him over Stefanski. Again, I don't think that's exactly what it was about.
Right.
Like last year, this talk kind of came up. It's just a lack of performance when given like the worst football roster in the NFL year in and year out. But hey, you have Myles Garrett. You gotta go to the playoffs, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's the right move. So, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know how many people are going to want to go get that job again with how it is with the GM job with the ownership there. I really don't know who's going to want to get that job. I tell you one thing though, I know a lot of people are going to want that Ravens job. John Harbaugh let go after 18 years in Baltimore, one of those being Super Bowl champions. This is a move that has, I mean, shoot, Austin, that AFC North Championship game on Sunday Night Football, it was essentially people were saying Trevor Coach loses is going to be on the hot seat and could get fired. And it ended up happening, Ravens losing, and John Harbaugh is out. Apparently, part of the reasoning, playoff failures, but also the thing is he wanted to run it back with his staff, is what I've heard, and the organization really didn't want to go in that direction. So they've decided to part ways. And I mean, it's not that I thought that it wouldn't happen. It's just I'm shocked that they actually did it this season because I thought it'd be if it happens again next year, then I was like, okay, they might move on next year. I'm shocked it happened this year, and it kind of shocked all the coaching carousel stuff because within 45 minutes of him getting fired, his agent said, "I got like 7 NFL teams calling me, even teams with current head coaches on their teams right now. There are teams calling and saying we'll get rid of him for John Harbaugh." But your thoughts on the Ravens moving on from John Harbaugh?
I look, it's a puzzler to me. I get it. You haven't beat Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow in the playoffs. That stinks. It's Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow, and Josh Allen. There's a Josh Allen in there. So the three other top five quarterbacks in the AFC, not counting Lamar Jackson, is what's been your shortcoming. And one of those was an AFC championship against a guy who was looking for his third Super Bowl in a row. Uh, I think had they not just been to the AFC Championship, maybe you could swing me on this. Or had they not been consistently making the playoffs, maybe you could swing me on this. I just don't get the first year in a minute where they just have not been very good. And mostly because Lamar Jackson spent some time injured, I would say is
Mm-hmm.
a huge issue
Yep.
in that ordeal. To be like, again, you're right. I'm with you. Had this happened and they're like, hey, we need to step it up, and you come into next season and you have similar results, then I get maybe being like, yeah, maybe after 19 years, it's time to cut ties. I just don't get this move. I don't know. I think it's like morale suicide. Let's get like a long-term coach who's been pretty successful, won a couple Super Bowls in his tenure. And after he doesn't make the playoffs for the first time in like 3 years, let's go ahead and take him out back and shoot him because clearly it's over. Um, I mean, look, maybe the guys in the locker room are ecstatic, but I didn't get that vibe coming into this game. I didn't get that vibe after the loss. They asked Lamar Jackson about it, and of course, you're not going to go out and slander the guy who may or may not be your coach next season.
Right.
Uh, but I mean, I think he had a pretty honest answer where he's like, "Of course, I'd like to run it back with John." Like, I don't know. It doesn't, again, this is another move that I just can't really get behind. I don't really understand it. Like who is on the list? Like you're not going to be getting somebody like uh to rebuild this team. This is a team that's ready to compete. So who are you eyeing? Maybe Kevin Stefanski could be a guy that comes in. I again, that's another guy I like that I think could be successful. Um I just don't know what you see, and I'm glad that Harbaugh is getting calls immediately. I think that makes. I don't know how you don't think like if I'm a team that has an opening right now, how am I not making a phone call and saying, "Hey, yeah, let me get this guy that's got a ton of experience, playing at the highest level, was in the AFC Championship last." That feels so crazy to say to me. It's like they were in the AFC Championship last year, and now it's just not good enough. Um, Unfortunate fate. From 2018 to 2023, all the coach of the years are
Yeah.
fired from the team they were coaching in that season. So, longevity not been the thing for coach of the years as of late. Um, it's going to be interesting to see, like you said, with all this stuff opening up, how all this stuff is going to end up kind of shaking out.
Yeah, I think so as well. I did see some people talking about this kind of reminded them of the Seattle Seahawks move to move on from Pete Carroll and saying they
Yeah.
want to take a team that was good and maybe take it to the next level. And obviously, look, Mike McDonald's gone in and really done that. He's done a great job. I don't know if you can expect that same result in Baltimore because let's address it like it is. There's questions about Lamar's future there currently right now as we speak. So who knows where his future holds. So they need to figure out what their plan for the future of the franchise is. And then when they make the head coaching hire, we'll look at that and go, okay, that might make sense for that. So we'll see where it goes there. Just some other coordinator hires or firings we'll talk about. Obviously, your personal favorite, Matt Eberflus, out as Cowboys defensive coordinator. I think there's enough said there. We don't need
What?
to.
The Cowboys defense was so good this year. Remember when they thought it was going to be good after the worst defense in football for 3 years running? Oh my goodness. I can't believe that. I am surprised that Matt Eberflus does not have a job. And I have nothing personal against the guy, but he just can't coach.
No.
He's not a good head coach. We know that. And his defenses were bad, Chicago, but hey, maybe he's distracted. Whatever. Yeah, being a head coach. But come on. I mean, people, this should have happened in the middle of once again, this should have happened in the middle of the season.
Yes.
This defense was just bad.
Mm.
Just and look, I get it. It's not they just lost Micah Parsons, which probably I don't know if he takes this job if Micah Parsons wasn't on the
Yeah,
roster
I think
when
that's
he was
fair.
but my goodness, the defense wasn't bad. Yeah, I know you didn't want to spend a ton of time on this, but my goodness, it is
It's fair. I know. I mean,
it's
because it's personal. I mean, you know him better than me. So
this was
absolutely.
a bad hire. Look, it had been one thing if maybe he had gone back to Indianapolis. When Nagy got fired by the Bears, he went back and he's like he went straight back to Kansas City to be the coordinator's coach. I get that, having loyalty to a guy who's been pretty solid for you. And obviously he's turned himself back into a head coaching candidate again. I know people are making phone calls about
Hmm.
Eberflus. I think the Titans are or at Nagy, not Eberflus. But he didn't. It's not like he went back to the Colts to go, or back to whoever he was paired with as a head coach. No, he's just gone to the Cowboys where they're like, this is going to take us to the next level. The guy who couldn't do anything with Justin Fields and Caleb Williams, that's the guy who's going to take us to the next level.
Yeah, apparently. And then another one that was quite a bit of a shocker. The Commanders making changes. Defensive coordinator let go. That wasn't a surprise. But offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury and the Commanders parting ways. And this is one that is kind of bizarre to me. And I'm sure you would agree as well. This is a guy that had head coaching offers last year. He's getting interviewed for head coaching jobs again this year. Key offensive players wanted him back, but apparently from what I heard, I thought this was interesting. They said it was mainly an organization, like the higher ups decision to move on from the coordinators. Dan Quinn did not want to move on from him, and yet the higher ups said no, we need to move on from him. So, I could have swore Daniel Snyder got out of this franchise. I could have swore that he was out of here, but apparently there's still little pieces moving around there. But I mean, we know how much we like Cliff Kingsbury and think he's been a great coordinator. I mean, surprising move to me. I'm sure you would agree with that as well.
Well, I'll say this: I liked him in Arizona even when they weren't that good. I just don't think Cliff Kingsbury is. I think he's gotten a ton of flack in his NFL coaching career, and I just don't think it's entirely warranted. Yeah, I don't get it being an organizational thing, but look, I'll say it like it is. I think this organization would have been foolish to think they were going to keep Cliff Kingsbury another season. He turned down he turned down a couple opportunities to come back. I'm not going to say they were head coaching opportunities, but he turned down opportunities to come back and coach Aiden Daniels. After this season, I don't know. Like you said, he's getting more head coaching offers. I don't know that, or interviews at least. I won't say offers yet. They haven't quite turned into offers for anybody just yet. Um, but I just think I think it's a crazy move, but I also think they would have been crazy to think they were keeping Cliff Kingsbury after this season anyway. But it's weird to me that it's not like Cliff Kingsbury saying, "Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say that, I'm out." Because you say parting ways, it's like maybe he came to them and he was like, "I think I'm going to go somewhere else. So if we want to make it a little bit easier and give you guys a better direction on where you're going to go, that way you don't have to wait till I'm gone or whatever to go ahead and start bringing somebody in, and miss out on some prime candidates." Um, but at the same time, it's just weird that it's like you said, the higher ups are the ones that are like, no, he's got to go. Um, because while I think he's probably going to get a better offer somewhere and probably take it,
Hmm.
I don't know why you wouldn't try to hold on to him for as long as you can, even if it's foolish.
Yeah, I mean, to me, you're risking. I mean, even to me, you're keeping him on until you see him leave for a head coaching job. If it's me, because you're
Agreed.
looking at
Agreed.
potentially ruining the development of Jaden Daniels here. I mean, what's this next? This next coach has got to be like something like a Shanahan kind of offensive guru to make it make sense. Because if you're bringing in someone not even on that level, then it's kind of like, well, we just downgraded here in developing our quarterback. Like, why did we do that? So I don't know. It doesn't make much sense to me, but we've discussed enough. Obviously, the ones that keep an eye on still waiting on Mike McDaniel. What does the future hold there for sure? He's not been officially announced he's coming back. It seems like it. Todd Bowles is coming back. And then shockingly, this person was shocking. Zach Taylor is coming back for another year. I mean, I'm
The
shocked that
Zach
he's coming.
Taylor, the running beef with Zach Taylor is just so crazy. For the last however many, since they went to the Super Bowl because you had picked him to be fired that year. Um,
I want it
it's
to be known, all you people that are like, why is he fired this year? Guys, I was freaking built into this whenever people
yeah.
were not wanting him fired. Like I wanted him fired then.
I can't say I'm at the point where I disagree with you, that maybe, he's not getting the job done. But this is probably the best bit that's running in the NFL right now is that every year Zach Taylor has a job and you just cannot believe it.
I mean, it is the most stunning, and to me, it would have been the perfect year to get rid of him because the defense is the thing that's holding you back. Hire a defensive-minded head coach, you bring in a good OC, and it could still work out good. But nope. But then I also factor in Marvin Lewis survived 16 years there without winning a playoff game. And Zach Taylor made the Super Bowl in his second year. Shoot, that's good for 20 plus years as head coach at that point. If Marvin Lewis can get
Yeah,
16 years without winning a playoff game, Zach Taylor's there forever, I swear.
yeah, no kidding. And to touch on Mike McDaniel, big win for us Mike McDaniel lovers. I know I am one. Keep that guy. Look, have they been really great in his tenure? No. Is it entirely completely his fault? Not really. And I like what's been coming out. They've talked about the organization. They just like him. I like him. I want to see him keep coaching. I've been saying for the last, when the Bears were looking at hiring, I said, if the Dolphins want to let him go and he wants to come to Chicago, I wouldn't complain. I know his track record's not good, but he's clearly a great like offensive coach. Like he gets it. The offenses have been good. You can't deny that.
Right, right.
Um, and he's just a fun guy. I love the way he cares about his players. Look, I'm rooting for Mike McDaniel. It felt like if there was a year to fire him, even I was like, yeah, maybe. But I'm back in. Like, if they like him that much, keep him. I like him that much. If it's coming down to just vibes and that's why we're keeping him around, I've been on the vibes train for a while.
I think that's well, that's your bit. Your bit is always going with Mike McDaniel no matter what. Mine's going against Zach Taylor no matter what. But let's dive into teams that are going to have their seasons continue. Let's dive into the playoff field here, officially set. We'll quickly just kind of give some thoughts about each of the teams before we dive into the game picks and make our overall predictions for it. Let's talk about in the AFC first. The one seed, the Denver Broncos, Austin. Let's say it like it is. Great defense, very talented quarterback. The job Sean Payton's done there is phenomenal. Question, pure and simple, for anyone is just, can they play a full game? That really, at least to me, that feels like the question that people are having is yes, this is a team that come fourth quarter, come second half, they're a tough team to beat. But what happens if they get down early in a game or get down from behind like the Jacksonville game and they can't get back into? So there's some question marks there. But I mean, your thoughts on Denver, number one overall seed in the AFC?
Look, they're a good team at their best. They're going to be tough to beat. But like you said, consistency is the big question. Even now at the end of the season, we've seen in some games that they're not as consistent as they'd like to be. So I like them. I think it's not a game I'd want to draw by any means,
Mm-hmm.
but what team are we going to see? And even if they don't show up for a full game, when are they going to have their good moments? Are they going to get
Right.
behind early? Are they going to play good early and then kind of slip away at the end? Yeah, it's consistency and when this team gets going, because they could definitely get bounced if they come out and have a bad game. Like you said against Jacksonville, to come out and start slow, that could be it.
Yep, that could be it. Being of number two seed, New England Patriots, the job Mike Vrabel's done in year one. They're 14-3. Drake May, currently one of the favorites for MVP. This is a team, though, Austin. People are in the playoffs. They're like, have they really played many good teams? Their schedule is something that has been a topic as of late about when they play these elite teams, are they really going to have success? But there's no question, Austin. They have the coaching and they've got the quarterback to make a run to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I agree. They've got a good coaching staff. They've got a good team. I worry about the inexperience, especially of Drake May. He's going to be in some big moments, some big pressure for the first time in his NFL career. He's going to have to make some big plays for this team. I'm not saying he's not capable, but for these young guys, it's not that easy when it's your first time in the playoffs,
Mm-hmm.
and you've got all this pressure on you. I'm not saying he won't come out and perform, but I'll be interested to see how well he does because it is definitely going to be a tough environment, and I think that's what everybody's looking at. How does Drake May perform in the postseason with all this pressure? That's the big question about this team. But I think it's a great team, like you said, great coaching. Another tough out. I mean, I guess it goes without saying these teams in the postseason, for the most part, are going to be tough teams to get out. But yeah, I worry about that's the big thing I worry about is Drake May's lack of experience. I'm not so much worried about the record and who they played in the regular season,
Right.
as much as I am just the experience level in these big moments.
Absolutely. Now let's head to the three seed, Austin, over there in Duval, where the Jacksonville Jaguars, led by Liam Cohen, one of the hottest teams in the NFL, entering the playoffs, an 8-game win streak. Look, Trevor Lawrence is playing the best football of his career. The defense is getting better and better. They're doing all this without Travis Hunter. ETN's having a career renaissance. Everything looks like it's trending for Jacksonville in the right direction. And it kind of feels like going into the playoffs, is there really a weakness? Can anyone slow them down? But let's also say like it is. I don't know the official stat off the top of my head, but I do know in recent memory, teams entering the playoffs with a winning streak or 8 or more games, they've won 0 Super Bowls. But your thoughts on Jacksonville entering these playoffs?
Yeah, they're hot. They're red hot. They are I mean, just as far as momentum wise, they're the best team in the AFC right now. They've got all the weight carrying with them. But you wonder what this team's going to look like in the postseason. Um, was it them that had the collapse, or was it the Chargers that had the
Chargers had
collapse?
the collapse against them. That's what it
Okay.
was.
Yeah, I couldn't remember. I just know that the Jags and the Chargers played in that game.
Mhm. Yeah.
It'll be a wonder what we see out of this team. I think my big curiosity is Travis Etienne has played good as of late, which is good for them when he's playing. I worry about Travis Etienne. He's kind of the guy to watch in this offense. When he's going good. But he does have a history of making some pretty awful and terrible mistakes.
Mhm.
Fumbles are like his best friend sometimes. So it's about getting him out there and having that effective run game. And he doesn't have to run for 100 yards. But if he's not coughing the ball over, Trevor Lawrence has taken great care of the ball this season. If they can get him going and playing consistent and just doing enough in the run game to take some pressure off Trevor Lawrence. That's the thing to watch in this game. How well does the run game and how well does Travis Etienne play in this game?
I think so as well. And then the final division winner, somehow, some way, Pittsburgh Steelers are here at 10-7. I'm just going to get my stuff out of the way first with it. Look, pure and simple. I don't know what the frick's going to happen here. I don't know. I mean, when they're all healthy and you have DK Metcalf coming back for the playoffs, maybe that's something that helps lead the factors into it. Obviously, the defense has got to create turnovers if they want any chance. But this is the first Steelers home playoff game since a game that we do not want to talk about in the year 2020. So maybe this is a chance to kind of turn a corner, maybe get some wins made for Mike Tomlin, or like I said earlier, maybe this is the last of we see of Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh before he decides to go into TV or pursue other options here. We know your preference about Aaron Rodgers and where you stand there. What are your thoughts on the Steelers entering this postseason?
Look, I don't like Aaron Rodgers, but look, this is a great defense. You can't score points if the defense does not let you. I know that's obvious, but they're not going to have to match high totals, most likely. I just wonder if they can kind of maintain the success that
Yeah.
we've seen in the run game. Aaron Rodgers hasn't played super consistently great. Um, I really wouldn't want to put all the pressure on him.
Mm-mm.
Uh, Warren has been so good
Yes.
as of late, rushing the football. I'd like to see that success continue. But I wonder, is Aaron Rodgers gonna be able to lift himself up for, one more playoff run?
Maybe so. And also, you talk about Jalen Warren. Kenneth Gainwell as well has been really great. Make
Yes.
sure Kenneth Gainwell is back next year, Steelers. No matter what, if Mike Tomlin's here or not, make sure he is back next year. Wild card teams in the AFC. Also, you talk about red hot Jacksonville Jaguars. This is the team with the biggest win streak entering the playoffs, actually. The 9 consecutive wins for the Houston Texans entering these playoffs. Austin, the best defense in the NFL so far this year. I think we can safely say that with what we've seen. CJ Stroud slowly getting back into comfortable rhythm and stride there. They're one of the red hot teams because guess what? That defense is going to give them a chance in every single game. We've seen that defense single handedly win games this year. Question is, can that offense match up with them and maybe have a chance at a playoff run this year?
Yeah, love this team, rooting for them. Offensive line is obviously the concern. Like you said, defense is no problem. Stroud's getting into a groove, but you got to keep Stroud protected, and especially as we'll talk about, in that first round game. I worry about how well they're going to be able to keep him clean against some of the monsters they'll be lining up against.
Absolutely. I think that's the key there. Let's get to your second favorite team in the NFL, your favorite player in the NFL. And that's Josh Allen and the 6 seed Buffalo Bills. Look, coming in to the playoffs, we don't want to say limping in because that Eagles game was rushed, but besides that, they finished the year strong, winning in New England. Wasn't able enough to get to the division title, but look, let's say it like it is, and it's been the storyline everywhere, Austin. No Patrick Mahomes, no Joe Burrow, no Lamar Jackson, none of these guys, any other quarterbacks with the playoff experience or the eliteness compared to Josh Allen in these playoffs, they're matching up against him. Is this the year for Buffalo to get back to that Super Bowl?
Look, I love Josh Allen. We all know it. I like the way this team has played this season. They found a real rhythm. They found a real groove. Look, and they kind of had a sloppy moments earlier in the season, but I think the big thing for me that told me what this team was going to look like in the playoffs was getting that game back against New England at the end of the regular season. They lost at home. Now you're going into Gillette, and it's a big moment and a big spot for the AFC East title as well. And to be able to win that game and continue on that success, I like where Buffalo stands right now. Um, Defense has always been the concern. It's what cost them a lot in these games, these big playoff games. We saw it firsthand last year when they got down to this, third and fourth string cornerbacks. That kind of set this team back. But look, they've tried to fix some of those problems, bringing in Tre'Davious White back, and he was able to stay healthy this season. So always good to have a vet that knows the team back. I like the way this team looks this season, but yeah, they're going to be playing, even though there's no Mahomes, no Lamar Jackson, no Joe Burrow, they're going to be playing against some slingers still this season. And so I wonder how that defense is going to be able to hold in the pressure of the postseason.
Absolutely. And then the final team, the 7th seed in the AFC, kind of limping their way into the playoffs is the Los Angeles Chargers here. Justin Herbert's fighting through a new hand surgery. Omarion Hampton's finally coming back. The defense is doing everything it can to make plays, force turnovers. But Austin, this offensive line is just so freaking injured. Again, I said it once, I'll say it again. If Bobby Hart is getting significant playing time in the year 2025, 2026, is that really a good thing for your offensive line? I mean, it kind of feels like they're limping in here. And also with the amount of injuries they suffered, I'm not going to lie. The fact that they're in the playoffs is kind of a big win to me.
Yeah, I like this Chargers team at their best, at their healthiest. They're a tough, fierce opponent. But yeah, like you said, limping in a lot of injuries, not to, mention the loss of Najee Harris,
Mhm.
who, not that he was going to be the lead back by any means this season, but every season of his career until this year in 1,000-yard rusher, he would have been a nice piece to have. And he had been having a pretty decent start to the season before that Achilles tear. And then another help in the backfield, Kamani Vidal, who's kind of been this rising star for them in the absence of Najee Harris and Omarion Hampton. He's also dealing with some injuries. So the backfield banged up. You've got Justin Herbert a little bit banged up. The offensive line is banged up. If you can get this team at their very, very, very best, they're going to be a tough team to beat. But right now, I think the worry is their health and are they going to be able to play at their very best?
Absolutely. But now let's dive into the NFC teams really quick. One seed we've talked about, Seattle Seahawks entering these playoffs 14-3. Best defense in the NFC by far, one of the top ones. The question coming into the playoffs, Austin, as it was for whenever he was on the Vikings last year, the question is Sam Darnold. Here's a guy, him and, also you could factor it in for the Broncos as well. Both one seed quarterbacks have zero playoff wins under them. So Seattle's going to have home field advantage. They can run the ball, the great defense. Can Sam Darnold lead this team to the Super Bowl?
Look, last year the big thing with the Vikings was Sam Darnold felt like more of a game manager. He definitely had his moments, but he had a good run game. He had a good he had a lot of weapons in the receiving core. Not that he doesn't in Seattle by any means. But he had these weapons in his arsenal, and he didn't have to do a lot. And then obviously when it came to the playoffs, the strategy was just, well, make him have to do a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and that caused problems. But this year, he's had the offense really thrust upon him, and he has done a great job. He's delivered in some big games and some big moments. Let's flash back to this past weekend at what he was able to do in a big game and some big moments. So I think yes. The question is, are we going to see that same Sam Darnold show up? Uh, but I think we've seen him deliver in the big moments. I don't think you have to worry so much. And even the games he had that's bad, the multi-interception game against the Rams earlier this season. In that game, they only lost by a few. Still, in his bad games, they're only losing by a few. So I think Sam Darnold's going to be able to help them make some plays. But yeah, watch out for Sam Darnold. What does he do in this postseason? Does he get over the hump? Does he really solidify himself as a starting quarterback you can build around? Is he somebody that's going to make you not just a playoff team, but a Super Bowl contender? That's what to look out for in this one.
All right, all right, all right. Second seed. This is a team you know, you love, and you've talked about them a lot this year. Chicago Bears getting that 2 seed. Obviously, 2 home games potentially. The job Ben Johnson's done in year one, incredible. Caleb Williams develops. The offense is there. The defense, as weird as it is to say, if there's a weakness, I guess at least it might be the defense. If you really call that a weakness, I mean, depending on how you look at it. But I mean, enough talk from me. Your Bears are the 2 seed. I mean, how are you feeling going into these playoffs, knowing the way it's going to be?
Yeah, I talked about my worries earlier and what might happen, but uh, it's exciting. It's one of the best, offensive units in football. Like you said, the defense can be shaky at times, but this team plays better in the second half. Cardiac Caleb and the Bears get find a way to get the job done more often than not down the stretch. Um, but the big thing for me in this one, just like it was for New England, inexperience, I think, is where you're going to see what can Caleb Williams do in his first postseason. What moments is he going to be able to have? Um, do teams like the Packers maybe really try and sell out on this run game, which has been so solid this season, and make Caleb toss the ball a lot more and put a lot of more pressure on him? I personally wouldn't do that. He's that talented, but yeah, I think what I worry about more than how the defense is going to play in this game is how is Caleb going to function in this, the biggest game of his life. I'll say it.
Mhm.
Maybe in high school he played some big games, but in college, for the most part, at Oklahoma, at USC, they weren't as big as this. He never went to a college football playoff that I can remember. One Pac-12 championship game,
Yep.
I think, that junior year. So he's had moments. He's a solid quarterback, but this is the biggest game. So how does he step up in this spotlight against the Bears' biggest rival, a team that's going to give him everything he's got? He's really got to go out there and sling it. That's what I'm interested to see in this game. How does Caleb play?
Absolutely. I think that is a factor. We'll see what Caleb Williams can do there. Three seed, the defending Super Bowl champions looking to repeat the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's just make it quick, Austin. The defense, one of the best in the NFL under Vic Fangio. Secondary is great. They can stop the run, they can pressure the quarterback. But can this offense be consistent come playoff time, Austin? That's truly the only factor we got to wonder about with the Eagles.
Yeah, slow start to the season, trying to find their groove, trying to find their groove. But over the last few weeks, obviously, like we said, they rested the starters last week. Over the last few weeks before that, found their groove. Saquon Barkley started hitting better numbers. Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown seemed to kind of unlock that connection again. Look, it's far cry from being consistent, but the momentum is in the offense's favor as far as what these guys are able to do coming into the playoffs. So I think yeah. How does Saquon play? How does this offense play? But they've got the momentum right now going with them. We'll see if it maintains here in the postseason.
We shall see. And then the four seed, the Carolina Panthers, losing record of 8-9. Look, I think me and you can both attest to. We don't know how far Carolina's going to go here, but this is just a fun story to have them back here in the playoffs.
Yeah, I like Bryce Young. Um, but is this team built for the playoffs? Is this team built,
Mm.
to play these kind of hard, tough games? Obviously, Bryce Young has done a lot of playing from behind in his tenure in Carolina. When they showed the stat in the Buccaneers Panthers game this weekend that showed just how many game-winning drives he has in his career, I was like, wow, that's a lot for the first 3 years of his career. And then I was like, well, actually, it makes sense because probably every game he's ever won in Carolina as the starter uh, has been a come from behind victory. But look, they've got pieces and they've got guys playing well. JC Horn's had a really good season this
Mhm.
year. He's been a threat. They've unlocked something with Rico Dowdle. Ted McMillan has really gotten comfortable as this rookie wide receiver one. They've got the pieces going. I'm not going to keep harping on inexperience, so I think that's something to watch. But just in general, is this team that went 8-9 going to be able to compete with some of these big dogs? I mean, starting right away, you had a team in the fight in the best division in football at 12-5, so they're going to get a show and a contest early.
Yes, they are. And that team's the Los Angeles Rams, five seed, 12-5 here. Kind of struggled down the stretch end of the season. But look, Austin, they've got one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL. They've got a defense that's gotten better and better, a coach with playoff experience, quarterback with playoff experience. In a season where there's really not a lot of playoff experience here for some of these teams, the Rams might be the best one in this entire NFC besides the Eagles.
Yeah. And I'd even say this: the Eagles, they went to a couple Super Bowls and they did win that one. But I think the Rams have been kind of the more consistent
Hmm.
team around the postseason. And you think about kind of the current iteration of the Eagles, with Saquon Barkley. Only, 1 year, one postseason under the
Right.
belt, albeit it was a Super Bowl winning postseason. But yeah, this is a great team. I feel confident with the way this team's been playing and the way this offense has been going. I know it sucks you didn't get that 1 seed, but you're playing as the 5 seed. They've got a lot of momentum. I don't know what you even question in this game. I maybe is Matthew Stafford's back going to hold up, but it held up all season. In a
Yep.
season where he talked about retiring in the offseason. He's been so healthy, he's been so good. Um, I don't see a lot of weaknesses with this team. Not that they're unbeatable and just can't be defeated. Um, but it's just going to take somebody coming out there and matching them score for score and making the big plays. We've seen it happen this season. We've seen them be beat. But look, now that Matthew Stafford, he's already got the Super Bowl under his belt. He was already a scary guy before he got to LA to just play in general. But now that he's in a winning system, winning games, he's won a Super Bowl. He's become really this all-time great, even more of an all-time great than he already is. And he's just playing such good football, MVP caliber football right now. This is going to be, I don't know, maybe the toughest out there. I know the Seahawks are the 1 seed. The way this team's played, though, they're built for the postseason. They've had postseason experience. This is going to be a really, really good team and a really tough team to beat.
Absolutely. As is another team from the NFC West, that's the 6th seed San Francisco 49ers. A team, Austin. I mean, I could be here for another 10 minutes naming injuries for the 49ers that they've had this year. And guess what? Despite all that, 12-5 team was 1 win away from being the road to the Super Bowl, literally at the Super Bowl, with the Super Bowl being in their home stadium. Look, the defense has its question marks with health. Robert Sala is doing everything he can there, but this offense prior to that Seattle game, it felt they were gaining a lot of momentum there. But question is, Austin, can the lack of depth and the injuries, is that going to hurt them during this, or do you think this last month of the year could lead to them maybe having a bit of juice going into the playoffs?
Seeing the way guys have played, as long as everybody stays mostly healthy, I'm not so worried about depth. Um, But look, Brock Purdy has really been, for the most part, on a mission since he's come back from injury. But look, he's still one of those guys that makes a lot of mistakes. That first game back, he threw, I don't even remember how many interceptions. They still won the game. But it's just about watching his turnovers and him playing his best ball, most efficient ball. He's played a lot of efficient football as of late this season. They're going to be a tough out, but I worry about that consistency continuing as you're going to see the best teams in football week in and week out, and a pretty darn good defense in this first game.
Absolutely. And then our last team we're going to talk about before we dive into the matchups, 7 seed Green Bay Packers by the skin of their teeth getting in, Austin. This feels like the exact same Packers team from last year. Team that gets a 7 seed feels like they're limping into the playoffs with a lot of injuries, not a lot of momentum, truly. I mean, it kind of feels like with the Chargers, kind of feels like they're just lucky to even get that 7 seed spot.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to dog the Packers too much, but yes, they are. They're broken and they're beaten down right now, and we've seen it has taken a little bit out of their defense not having a guy like Micah Parsons, taking a little bit of the edge out of that pass rush. But look, it, injuries are going to be the big thing to watch. Who the guys filling in are, and look, not everybody's 100%. I think they made the right decision. Benching guys like Jordan Love and making sure that they can get those guys into this first round game. Um, but in this first game against the Green Bay or against the Chicago Bears, they've got that momentum of playing a rival. In the third time in like 5 weeks. You're going to get to play this rival, and it's in Soldier Field. They beat you last time. You're even in the season series 1-1. It's your rubber match game here. And I think that's enough to be worried as a Bears fan at what might happen in this first game. Obviously, that kind of mentality can't carry you through the rest of these games. They're not playing the Bears every week in this postseason. Um, but I think that they are hurt, and who are we going to see with these guys? But if they can find a way to get fired up and get motivated, that they have a chance. And they played the Bears close both games this season.
Mhm.
So it's certainly not out of the question by any means for them to make something happen in this postseason.
Absolutely not. But with that, let's dive into these wild card games. And what a slate this is. Looking at the slate for the spreads, only one game is higher than 5 points. That's his first one we're going to dive into. Panthers hosting the Rams. Like we said, we previewed both teams entering this matchup. Cam Newton's going to be there and to try to fire him up with hitting the drum for the Panthers, trying to build some momentum. But do you see the Panthers? Look, they beat the Rams at home already this season. Do you see a chance of that happening a second time here in this wild card matchup to kick things off this weekend?
I think they can play them close. I think they can keep it close, but I think in these playoff games, Matthew Stafford's going to be up another level. I think this defense is going to get after Bryce Young. I like the Rams to take this one.
Yeah, me too. I think the Rams will handle business here. I will say this: I will probably take Carolina plus the points, just because I think 10.5 is kind of ridiculous for a playoff game. So
I'm with you. I was going to say that too.
I'll say, not saying that's my bet of the week, but it's a valid option if it was to be the bet of the week here.
Yeah.
So I think it's fair, but yeah, I'm agree. I'm going to go with the Rams. I think that they're not going to let that happen 2 times in a row. Then 7 p.m. on Amazon, Bears and Packers. You talked about the matchups being close. Currently, the Packers a 1.5 point favorite over the Bears in this matchup. Chance of snow in the forecast as well. I mean, this just screams instant classic to me. It feels like it. But obviously, we know where
Yeah.
you're leaning. But little pep talking. What are you hoping to see for your Bears on Saturday night to try to start what is hopefully the beginning of a long playoff run?
Yeah, look, I think the big thing for us is get that running game going. And that's what's helped Caleb settle in this season. Having that run game, having the defense constantly have to wonder, play action, are they giving it? What's happening? DeAndre Swift has run so well. But look, the conditions sound like they're going to play to our advantage. It's going to be cold, maybe snowy. Get that run game going. Caleb can make some plays out of the play action. Um, yeah, I like this. And Jordan Love's been banged up. I'd like to see the defense get after him. Austin Booker has really started to settle in now that he's back fully healthy. Like him playing off of Montez Sweat. That's the thing Chicago's needed for a while since getting Montez Sweat. Is somebody that can line up on the other side that gives problems. Austin Booker's starting to kind of become that guy this season, batting down passes, putting pressure on quarterbacks. If we can get after, a not 100% Jordan Love and make his night difficult, I think that's going to go a long way. So I'm picking the Bears, obviously. I think the defense can help make some things happen.
Yeah, to me, this is a tough match. It's a close matchup. But again, I look back to that very first matchup Green Bay won. Who's getting the pressure on Caleb Williams to make those throws down the field, ultimately that final interception in that Bears Packers game? That's Micah
Yeah.
Parsons. Micah Parsons is not here for the matchup. Their tight end room is decimated. There's a lot of things going in their way. So it kind of seems like I should pick the Packers here, especially when you factor in they are the only 7 seed to ever beat a 2 seed, given that matchup against the Cowboys a few years ago. So it's very possible. But I'm going to lean on the Bears at home here again. I think no Micah Parsons is very much a massive impact in this game. I think the Bears will do enough to get out of here with a win at home. Now let's move to Sunday, Austin. 12 o'clock on CBS. In my personal opinion, this is the game, best game, besides our non-biased picks, the best game of Wild Card Weekend. 3 seed Jacksonville Jaguars hosting the 6 seed Buffalo Bills. Trevor Lawrence versus Josh Allen, both playing great football. And again, another one where the road team is the favorite. Bills currently a 1 point favorite here in this one. To me, this is the best matchup. Two great quarterbacks, two teams that are kind of found their rhythm to end the year, two teams that are very viable candidates to go on a long run to the Super Bowl. Question is, Austin, which one starts that run on Sunday afternoon?
Look, Josh Allen starts his march to San Francisco in Jacksonville. I like the Bills in this game. Jacksonville's playing on, they're playing well. Um, but I think the Bills are going to have those guys. You've got Joey Bosa in this game. You've got Josh Allen. I think those guys step up and make the biggest plays. James Cook's been playing well as of late. I'm not picking against Josh. I got to go
Yeah.
Buffalo.
You just got to double check. You got to make sure, don't want to miss anything there. To me, it's a close matchup, two good quarterbacks. But to me, the thing that's just hurting me picking for Buffalo in this game is just that foot injury Josh suffered against the Browns. It seems like he hasn't really been himself, at least in my opinion, since that game. I think that injury might be worse than they're kind of letting on there. And then, I talked about it. Josh has to basically play superhero like he did all last year winning MVP. He needs to have that for them to have success. And if he's not 100% against this Jags pass rush, I just don't know if I see it happening on the road here. I'm going to lean Jacksonville at home for those reasons I said, plus a red hot team. Their offense is clicking. The pass rush is getting there. The run game, you name it, it's all clicking for Jacksonville. I'll pick the Jaguars to win this game. Then 3:30 on Fox, my second favorite of the wild card games, another 6 versus 3 here. Niners and Eagles in Philadelphia here, Austin. This is a matchup we have seen in the recent years be kind of a start of a rivalry. It kind of feels like in recent memory. We saw the last couple of
Yeah.
games played between these two teams. Now they're meeting in the playoffs. Major strengths and weaknesses on both sides here. Where are you leaning in this one in Philadelphia?
Look, there's a lot going on, but I think the big thing that helped me make this decision is San Francisco's red hot momentum got stalled last week. Uh, at home, had a chance to make something happen and become that one seed, and they didn't get it done. Um, I'm not saying they're going to be a bad team now, but I think now the Eagles have kind of started to find that groove on offense. And now the 49ers go from this big swing of like, hey, we're pushing, we could be the number one seed. Boom, we lose 13-3. And now we are the sixth seed going on the road to Philadelphia. I think we could see a little bit of a crash by them. I don't think they'll play a bad game, but I think the Eagles will win and be able to take advantage of that kind of momentum swing for both teams. One going from down to up and one going from up to down.
All right, all right. I'm actually going to go the other way with you. I'm going to lean with the 49ers here. I know that loss last week was devastating for them. But to me, again, I look at the weaknesses, strength versus weaknesses matching up here. That Eagles defense against that Niners offense will be great to watch. Then you got two weaknesses here. This Niners defense against this Eagles offense. Really, neither has been the most consistent units in the world. And this is a game I think will be a low scoring affair, probably more low scoring than I think people will think. And ultimately, if it's a low scoring affair, it really comes down to which offense do I trust more in the matchup? Do I trust the Eagles or do I trust the 49ers? And I trust the 49ers offense a bit more. So I'll pick the 49ers to win here. Sunday night football that night. 2 seed New England Patriots hosting the 7 seed Chargers in this one. Obviously, Patriots trying to get some momentum here, prove a point, taking down a playoff team in the Chargers. Austin, I'm not going to lie to you, it works out for both sides. You're the Chargers. Of all the pass rushes to face in round one, this is maybe the one you feel most confident against in the Patriots. But on the other side, the Patriots are looking at this like, look at this offensive line for the Chargers. We should have a field day against them. Intriguing matchup here. Patriots 3.5 point favorites here. They get the win in Foxborough on Sunday night.
Yeah, I like New England here. I think they're playing too well, and the Chargers are just too hurt. If these two teams are 100%, I might go the other way. But I think this is a great game and a great opportunity for Drake May to kind of settle into his momentum, settle those playoff nerves a little bit in front of the home fans, and get the job done.
That's exactly my thinking there. I think when it comes to, getting those playoff nerves in against the Chargers, it's probably be a close one early. They might start slow, but I think they'll be able to take advantage, pull away late there and get the win here to try to build some momentum at home and try to get things jump started in this playoff game. It's not a bad jump start here for the Patriots here in this one. Last wild card game, Monday Night Football. Steelers hosting the Texans. Chance of snow in this one. Austin, a lot of stuff's on the line here. The Steelers have won 23 consecutive Monday Night Football home games dating back since the 90s. But they have not won a playoff game since 2016. Also, the Texans have been awesome at home in the playoffs, have never won a road playoff game in the history of their franchise. Something has got to give in this matchup on Monday Night Football. Which is it?
Sadly, I'm going to go with Houston here. I think that CJ Stroud could see some trouble from that Pittsburgh defensive line, but just with the way the Texans are playing right now, that red hot momentum is going to be tough to stop. I like this offense to outperform Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers offense, so I'm going to go with the Houston Texans here.
That is completely fair. If I was not a biased man, I would probably agree with you. But I am a biased man here. Look, the key is the Steelers have got to get pressure on Stroud. That offensive line is the weakness. Watt, Highsmith, Derek Harmon, Keanu Benton, all of them have got to get Nick Herbig. They've all got to get pressure on Stroud. They can do that. There's a good chance for it. Plus DK Metcalf coming back. Who knows what that does? But this spread over under 39.5. Is it time for another Steelers under? I haven't done a Steelers under this season. I mean, I'm just saying here. But I'm going to pick the Steelers for completely biased reasons. Now, before we dive into bet of the week, we of course got to make our picks for this playoff run, Austin. So let's go ahead and dive into it. We pick conference champions here to go along with. So give me your conference championship in the AFC to start, and who you have going to the Super Bowl from the AFC.
Look, give me Buffalo and give me. It's taking a lot of mental math to figure out who would be on the other side here. Um, beat England probably. Okay, give me Buffalo, Denver in the AFC Championship. And no, give me Buffalo, New England in the AFC Championship.
Ooh.
Sorry, I did my mental math
Hey,
wrong
no,
there
you're
on where
good. You're
teams.
good.
And then give me Buffalo to the Super Bowl.
Hey, all right, all right. So we got Buffalo on this one. We both have our AFC winners coming from the same game, so our playoff dreams are going to end no matter what in this first one. I've got a Jacksonville Denver AFC championship, and I think for the second time this year, Jacksonville goes into Denver and takes care of business here. I like the Jaguars to make their first ever Super Bowl appearance here. Now over to the NFC side, Austin. There's a lot of good candidates. I'm going to make a bet that there's a good chance it could be a team from the NFC West, given the field here. But give me your NFC
Yeah,
championship and who you have going to the Super Bowl from the NFC.
I'm gonna take the Los Angeles Rams to play against the Philadelphia Eagles.
Ooh, okay.
And I'm going to have the Los Angeles Rams in the Super Bowl.
All right, we're in agreement here. My NFC championship, I actually have a Rams Seahawks NFC championship in Seattle here. And I mean, look, the point difference in the two matchups between the two is literally 1 point. And it comes down to, am I gonna it really comes down to, until I see Sam Darnold do in the postseason, I'm gonna ride with Matthew Stafford and the Rams in this one. So I'm gonna have the Rams in the Super Bowl just like you. So you've got a Bills Rams Super Bowl. I feel like you've predicted this one before. I still remember your prediction from a few years ago where it was the first game is going to be the last game. I remember it was a great prediction. I just wish it
That's
would have came
that's
true
a
at that
great
time.
prediction.
But Bills versus
It could.
Rams is your Super Bowl. I think I know who you have coming out on top here, but give it to us anyway. Give it to us.
Come on, give me Buffalo. Are you kidding me? The Bills go all the way. Josh Allen gets it done with none of those annoying obstacles in Lamar Jackson or Joe Burrow or Patrick Mahomes. He does it. He's free. He's finally free.
I love to hear it. Love to hear it for Josh and you all. Buffalo be happy in the last year of Highmark Stadium to get a Super Bowl. Yes, please. I think they would enjoy that for me. I've got Jaguars Rams Super Bowl here. Funny, these two did meet earlier this year. I don't think it'll be very much like that game because Jacksonville's gotten red hot since then. But I'm going to lean on the experience of Stafford and McVay in the big game here. I'll lean on the Rams to be my Super Bowl champion. So there you go. You got the Buffalo Bills as Austin Super Bowl champ, and you've got the Los Angeles Rams as my Super Bowl champ. But with that, let's dive into our final segment here, the bet of the week for Wild Card Weekend or Super Wild Card Weekend. How dare I not add super into it? A
Yes.
lot of games in
Super
play
well.
here. What do you got, Austin? Bet of the week for Wild Card Weekend.
Look, I'm leaning on conditions. I'm leaning on grit. I'm leaning on two teams going out and trying to kill each other. I'm going to go the under 45 and a half Bears Packers.
Ooh, okay. I respect it. I respect it. And you know what? I'm going to get on that train with you. Not the same game. Frick it. I haven't done a Steelers under in a while. Give me Texans Steelers under 39 and a half. This game's going to be a 13-10 final kind of game. It is going to be ugly football here with these two defenses. So absolutely. Give me Steelers Texans under 39 and a half. Oh, that feels so good. I haven't done a Steelers under in so long. It feels so good to say that on here again. But that
Your
is it for our
soul is
NFL.
saved.
No, what were you going to say, Austin? What were you going to add?
I said your soul was saved by doing that one.
It really
You did it.
was,
You got it in
which means
at the
this is
buzzer.
that means this is going to be a shootout, knowing how it's been with my picking the Steelers
Yeah.
under in recent memory here. But that's going to do it for this NFL playoff edition of the Bull Take Podcast. We'll have one coming out next week for divisional round weekend. Also, we're recording this on Wednesday night. Tomorrow night and Friday night are the semifinal matchups of the college football playoff. That episode's up now on our YouTube channel, wherever you get your podcast. Go listen or watch it. Hear our picks, thoughts, and analysis, and get ready for those big games there. But it's playoff time. It's win or go home time from this point out in the football season. So let's sit back and enjoy it. Y'all enjoy a good weekend of football. That's Austin Hill. I'm Austin Wader. And we want to thank you for watching.